Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headline that we're tracking for you this evening: the Sensex and the Nifty end with marginal gains after a range-bound session. The Nifty reclaims 24,600. Mid-caps continue to outperform. Block deal frenzy on Dalal Street. Large deals worth 3,000 crore rupees in a Birla fashion. Alchem Labs, Tata Tech and Indegene. This after shares worth 5,500 crore rupees changed hands just yesterday in 5 companies, including Ola Electric, Yes Bank and Vodafone Idea. United States to double import tariff on aluminum and steel products to 50% with effect from today. UK has been granted a temporary reprieve from the new tariff rates till the contours of the recently signed trade deal are worked out. Canada and Mexico will be the worst hit. President Trump called China's Xi Jinping very tough and extremely hard to make a deal with. This comes after trade talks between both nations have stalled. Both leaders are likely to speak this week. Zerodha CEO Nifty Kamath expects SEBI's new margin trading facility rules to cushion some of the losses due to stricter F&O rules. Forecasts a 10 to 20% drop in its broking business, as overall business should be all right this year. Also sticks to their no IPO stance. That's an exclusive. Just days after exiting the White House, Elon Musk calls Trump's so-called big beautiful tax bill a disgusting abomination. The bill is estimated to add nearly $4 trillion to US deficit. India demands the World Trade Organization act on trade barriers and dispute resolution mechanism. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal outlines India's agenda at a ministerial gathering of 25 countries in Paris. After Bajaj and TVS, Tata Motors flags concerns over China restricting the exports of rare earth magnets critical for electric vehicle production. SIAM President and Tata Motors executive Shailesh Chandra says industry is closely interacting with government. Raucous celebrations in Bengaluru after the Royal Challengers win the Indian Premier League. The state government felicitates the team as Virat Kohli and RCB's 18-year title drought comes to an end. Well, we'll get to the IPL action in just a second, but the market action for the day, the market's closing higher after a range-bound session, the Nifty ending above 24,600. Broader markets also continued to outperform. 77 points higher, that's the Nifty. The Sensex 260 points higher. The Nifty Bank 76 points higher and 400-point up move there on the mid-cap. Surbhi joins us now with the day's market action. Surbhi, closing in the green today.
Well, a good day for the market, middle of the week, and positive consolidation continued. The Nifty, as well as, of course, the broader market, continue to trend higher. The bias was decidedly up. The Nifty, by the end of it, managed a gain of about 0.3%, and the mid-cap index once again outperformed with a gain of almost 0.7% thereabouts. Global markets overall are in a mood to shrug off a lot of these tariff worries, even as those 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum kicked in today. While we were trading, European markets were up. US futures had started pointing higher. So it seems that right now, that's no longer on the front burner. It's on the back burner for the time being. Let's talk about what worked in the market and what the pockets of action were. Defense, railway, auto stocks, all of them leading the buying action. Financials and banking relatively subdued, and I'll talk about that when we discuss stocks. So let's talk about the gainers. Geofinance, by the way, was an exception. Like I said, otherwise financials were slightly weak today. Aside of that, Bharti Airtel had a good day. Reliance chipped in quite nicely. Tech Mahindra from the IT pack. And autos, like I said, Tata Motors, Maruti, some decent gains. And even metal names, Hindalco and Tata Steel, as globally markets were in a bit of a risk-on mood. The losers now, Bajaj Finserv, Shriram Finance, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, financials, not a very hot spot ahead of the RBI policy. TCS and Trent from the Tata stable also had a down day today. Quick commerce plays were really worthy of taking note of today. Both Eternal and Swiggy had a fantastic session. Swiggy, in fact, was up almost 7-8%. A lot of focus is now on Zepto and what is the pace of its next round of fundraising and its eventual IPO. Mid-cap movers, what a flurry of action here in defense and railways. Both of them really stood out. Within railways, Aircon, RVNL, RITES, RailTel, these stocks gained anywhere between 5% to as much as 13-14% in some cases. And some of the private sector names like Texmaco Rail also tripped in. So good railway party today. Other mid-cap and small-cap movers included PB Fintech, Garden Reach Shipbuilders, All Cargo Logistics, and the recent listing, Bellrise Industries. A good day for the broader market. The Nifty's been consolidating in roughly a 500 and 550 point band. And every time we approach the downside of this range, which is roughly 24,500, we're seeing buying come in. The next important triggers, there is, of course, the ECB meet tomorrow, the RBI meet, so lots of central bank action over the next 48 hours. And then, of course, we have the jobs report on Friday. So plenty to keep the market occupied, but the bias seems to be on the way up.
All right, so many thanks for joining us. And staying with the markets, valuations in India are cheap and inexpensive. That's, in fact, the word coming in from Rhythm Desai, Managing Director at Morgan Stanley India. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Desai said U.S. companies' decision to set up manufacturing facilities in India has very little to do with tariffs. He added that India is not going to become the next China. Take a look.
In my humble opinion, and it's not even humble, I think stocks are cheap. Okay. Stocks are inexpensive in India. I wrote that day before yesterday. My title of my report is Equities are Inexpensive. Bond yield in India, 10-year bond yield is 6.2%. The equity yield is 5%. India is a growth market. The gap is -1%. This is cheap. Yeah. Look at Nifty in gold ounces. Either gold prices fall or Nifty goes up. It's cheap. The decision on setting up a local manufacturing facility in India, I don't think has much to do with the tariffs that President Trump is proposing. A lot of these plans were already underway pre-April, and I don't think are changing dramatically because of the tariffs. One thing which we need to bear in mind is India is not becoming the next China. I don't think the world has appetite to create capacities like it did in China in the last 20 years. But the appetite to diversify supply chains, the appetite to build facilities in India to cater to India's home market, that's clearly there. So India's manufacturing share of GDP will rise, but you should not be holding your breath for the next China. It's not happening.
Well, that's Rhythm Desai. From equities to commodities, oil prices softening today on account of concerns of oversupply after OPEC Plus increased output. Lingering concerns of the global economic outlook on account of tariff tensions also weighed on prices. Meanwhile, gold prices risen higher by rising safe haven demand triggered by uncertainty over the US-China trade relations and global economic concerns. A weaker dollar has also provided additional support. Now, the US is set to double import tariff on aluminum and steel products to 50% with effect from today. This after President Trump signed the executive order increasing duties on the imports of the two metals from 25% to 50% to protect the US steel industry. However, the UK has been granted a temporary reprieve from the new tariff rates till the contours of the recently signed trade deal are worked out. Canada and Mexico are expected to be the worst hit by the levy. And staying with that, India is closely monitoring the US decision to double tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 the government plans to discuss the situation bilaterally and at the World Trade Organization. Abhimanyu is here with more. Abhimanyu, what is the government's stance on Trump's hike in steel tariffs?
As the discourse around tariffs imposed on steel and aluminium by the United States intensifies, government sources have indicated that the Indian government remains engaged in continuous talks with the United States on resolution of all pending bilateral issues, even as both the countries are discussing a bilateral trade deal. Also, they're discussing an interim trade deal. It remains to be seen how early the discussions are going to take place and how early both the countries are going to reach an interim trade deal. Government sources have indicated that the United States already has several legislations which it may use to intensify tariffs or to levy more tariffs. So the government is weighing all options as far as further talks with the United States is concerned. Also, shale gas, LNG, crude oil can possibly be sourced from the United States to bridge the trade deficit which currently exists in favor of India.
Abhimanyu, many thanks. And Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has called for stronger dispute resolution at the World Trade Organization to curb non-tariff barriers. Addressing a gathering of WTO trade ministers in Paris, Goyal called to strengthen a consensus-based mechanism. He also conveyed India's ask for special treatment of least developed and developing countries. US President Trump says it is extremely hard to make a trade deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The statement comes after trade talks between both sides came to a halt. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said, and I quote, "I like President Xi of China, always have, always will, but he is very tough and extremely hard to make a deal with," end of quote. Remember, both the US and China had agreed to a 90-day tariff pause in May as they discussed a new trade deal. But over the last few weeks, both nations have accused each other of reneging on their commitment. And speaking of China, Beijing is considering placing an order for hundreds of Airbus SE aircraft. A Bloomberg report says this move could materialize as soon as the next month. Deliberations for the potential size of the order are underway. The deal could range between 200 to 500 aircraft and may include both narrow-body as well as wide-body models. Boeing will be watching this space closely. China refusing to ease its stranglehold over the supply of rare earth magnets. And this has not just become a cause for concern for the global EV ecosystem, but is rankling Indian EV makers as well. Leading electric vehicle companies, including Bajaj Auto, TVS Motor and Tata Motors, have all told us that the situation is concerning and has the capacity to bring production to a grinding halt. China accounts for 90% of the world's rare earth magnet supply and is a critical component for manufacturing electric vehicles. Take a look.
The whole supply chain of the world resides in China. So if this is true, we are still trying to come to terms with the facts, all the facts. But if this is true, it would mean that, and if it doesn't change, then in a matter of weeks, the entire Indian EV industry will grind to a halt.
I would be wrong in saying that we don't have dependence on this. There is dependence. As SIAM president, SIAM as well as ACMA both are very closely interacting with the government. Government has been very supportive on this issue, in terms of reaching out to the Chinese government also, the relevant ministries there. And we hope that the issue might be, taken care of.
This EV supply chain disruption is certainly going to pose a short to medium term challenge. And I think as India plans its EV strategy and EV plan, the adoption will have to be phased in or phased up, along with developing an Atmanirbhar supply chain in India, where India, as the world's leading two-wheeler market, which has produced 3 of the top 5 companies by volume globally, has its own supply chain, its own R&D, its own capability, and EV is really built on that basis.
Well, this is a worry, and industry is hoping for a breakthrough between the government engagement between India and China. Now, just days after exiting the White House, Elon Musk has called President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, I quote, a disgusting abomination. In a post on X, Musk accused Congress of bankrupting America as the bill burdened citizens with unsustainable debt. The Tesla CEO also hit out at the U.S. House of Representatives for voting for the bill. Dia joins us now with more. It's been Musk versus Trump all over social media. A flurry of comments from Elon Musk, Dia, taking on the Big Beautiful Bill.
A high-stakes tax and spending bill hailed by U.S. President Trump as a big, beautiful bill is now being called a disgusting abomination by none other than Elon Musk. Just days after exiting his role as the cost-cutting czar in the Trump administration, the tech billionaire is publicly denouncing the legislation. His comments have sparked a wave of political backlash and exposed growing divisions within the Republican Party itself. The bill in question, which cleared the House in May, includes multi-trillion-dollar tax breaks, a sharp increase in defense spending, and raises the federal government's borrowing limit by up to $4 trillion. Just last week, Musk walked out of the Trump administration after 129 days working with his team Doge to slash spending. His departure was quickly followed by a flurry of posts on X, where he called the bill outrageous, pork-filled, and warned it would push the national deficit to a staggering $2.5 trillion. In a direct rebuke to lawmakers, Musk wrote, "Shame on those who voted for it." Despite having reportedly donated over $250 million to support Trump's re-election efforts, Musk is now vying to fund campaigns aimed at removing any politician who, in his words, has betrayed the American people. Musk says that same group could face political consequences, especially if they vote to advance the bill. The Trump administration wasted no time to hit back. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt said this when asked about Trump's remarks.
How mad do you think President Trump is going to be when he finds out that Elon Musk said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it."
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
Well, it's Elon Musk versus Donald Trump. Surprise, surprise. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Zerodha CEO Nifty Kamath expects SEBI's new margin trading facility rules to cushion some of the losses due to stricter F&O rules. Despite this, he's still forecasting a 10 to 20% drop in Zerodha's broking business. Kamath says the overall business will be all right this year and continues to maintain the no IPO stance. He spoke to me from the sidelines of the EY World Entrepreneur Awards in Monte Carlo, where he's one of the 43 finalists vying for the top spot.
In terms of, we started our MTF business last December, which has grown significantly, which is around 3,000 crores of book size. So it kind of cushions some of these, some of the losses from the options trading business. But that said, the hit is still there, So I guess we would have done all right if we did a flat year this year, from the operations of broking. As in the overall business, should be still all right because we do some treasury operations and also, and it's until last October, until December it was like not bad at all. So overall business should be all right, but broking business as such, I think, will still be down like 10-20%. It takes a while to build trust and credibility as such, so in 10 years from now, we would want to be a full-fledged financial conglomerate as such, so and hopefully banking will happen somewhere along the way. We have enough cash to do whatever we wish to do, and I feel that being listed on the exchanges is kind of tough to, for a company like ours, it's kind of tough, because a lot of times what is right for the investor isn't really what is right for the customer.
And you can catch the full interview with Nifty Kamath at 7:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. Chipmaker Nvidia has once again become the most valuable publicly traded company in the world. The company's market cap stands at $3.45 trillion, surpassing Microsoft's market cap of $3.44 trillion. The chip giant has been trading places with Apple and Microsoft for the top slot since June last year. Nvidia's growth was propelled by its AI chips, which are being used by companies including OpenAI to develop ChatGPT. India services sector activity maintained a steady growth in May. This was largely led by strong export demand and record hiring. The HSBC India Services Purchasing Managers Index, compiled by S&P Global, stood at 58.8, marginally up from 58.7 in April. Any reading above 50 denotes growth. The survey highlighted that new orders rose at a sharp pace and there was strong improvement in international demand. Well, it's a block deal frenzy on Dalal Street with large deals worth 3,000 crore rupees in Aditya Birla Fashion, Alchem Labs and Tata Tech and Indegene. This after shares worth 5,000 crore rupees changed hands yesterday in 5 companies, including Ola Electric, Yes Bank and Vodafone Idea. Vivek is here with more on today's big deals. The block is buzzing, Vivek.
Well, that's right. So the block deals, immediately post the earnings season, quite a lot of supply coming in as far as the secondary market was concerned. First on the list was Aditya Birla Fashion. Remember, Flipkart held a little over 6% stake in the company. Aditya Birla Fashion is the demerged entity, so one entity is still yet to list. What actually transpired was that over 6% equity traded hands and over 600 crore was the value of the block deal. The other stock on focus was Indegene. Almost 1/10 of the company exchanged hands today. One of the pre-IPO private equity investors, Carlyle, which held stake under CA Dawn, that particular entity sold over 10.2% stake, and they managed to garner a little over 1,500 crore rupees via this particular block deal. Tata Technologies, another one, very interesting given the fact that TPG Rise, held over 6% of the equity at the end of the March quarter. They trimmed almost 5%, 4.9% to be precise, in April, and after that today they've gone ahead and sold a further 2.1% equity. Thereby, now post today's block deal, TPG Rise won't have any stake left as far as Tata Technologies was concerned. And lastly, Alkem Labs, interestingly again, the promoter here trimming the stake, a promoter by the name of Jayanti Sinha, offloaded almost 1.4% equity stake in Alkem Labs today. Most of the stocks that you're discussing ended the session lower after the block deals took place.
Vic, many thanks for joining us. We'll head to a break, but up next, raucous celebrations Bengaluru after the Royal Challengers win the IPL. That and more when we return. In international news, Israeli forces continue to bombard Gaza, killing at least 26 Palestinians after intense overnight air attacks. A majority of the killings were reported in Khan Yunis and Jabalia. Israeli military has also warned starving Palestinians in Gaza against approaching roads to the US-backed aid distribution sites. The sites will be closed for a whole day for renovation and reorganization work. This comes after 27 Palestinians were shot and killed due to chaos at the food distribution points. Russian forces have intensified their attacks in Ukraine's Sumy region. Moscow has said it captured another village, bringing the region's capital closer to the range of frontline drones. This comes as Kyiv displaced its ability to conduct a series of strikes hitting Russian strategic bombers and the Crimean Bridge. Ukraine claims to have destroyed at least 12 Russian fighter jets. South Korea's Liberal Party candidate Lee Jae-myung has been elected the country's 14th president. The other contender in the race, the People Power Party candidate Kim Moon-soo, conceded defeat after Lee garnered 49% of the votes counted. In his victory speech, Lee vowed to reboot South Korea's economy and make peace with the North. The Indian embassy in Tehran has confirmed that the 3 Indian men who went missing in Iran have been rescued by local police. All 3 men were from Punjab and were supposed to travel to Australia from Iran in search of jobs. The monsoon session of Parliament will be held from the 21st of July to the 12th of August. Both houses of Parliament scheduled to convene after a break of over 3.5 months. This will be the first session of Parliament after Operation Sindoor. Well, a night to remember for Royal Challengers Bengaluru fans as the IPL franchise's 18-year wait came to an end. RCB beat Punjab Kings by 6 runs in the final to lift the IPL trophy for the very first time. Fans erupted in raucous celebrations in Bengaluru after the RCB squad reached the airport. A sea of red outside the Karnataka State Assembly where the government is scheduled to facilitate the team. RCB's win also brings to an end cricketing legend Virat Kohli's agonizing wait for an IPL trophy. Interestingly, 18 is the number on Kohli's jersey and he has been with the franchise since the Cricket League started 18 years ago. Jonty Rhodes, arguably the greatest fielder of all time, hailed RCB's win, called it an incredible all-round performance.
It was talk about Virat Kohli in 18 years. Obviously, his number on the back of his shirt, it seemed like it was destined to be, and a really incredible season. And not just for Virat Kohli, you know, Krunal Pandya I'd worked with at LSG. So great to see him, even though not in the highlights, because he's not somebody that's going to take 3 or 4 wickets in a game, but he certainly was able in the final to really restrict the Punjab batter. So an incredible all-round performance. I know everybody is focusing on Virat Kohli, but I think for a team that's had to wait a long time to take a trophy, you know, I just think that once you win one, they're going to make a habit of it.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.